It's amazing what the mind is capable of, and how sometimes your subconscious can tap into these memories that it's not that you forgot them, but you didn't even realize that you had. I wonder if this has ever happened to you. You walk into a store, you walk into somebody's house, and there's something in that house, something very familiar. It could be the smell of potpourri or perfume or something, and immediately it's as if you're brought back to your childhood home or your grandma's house. You don't know why. You don't have a memory, but you have a feeling, and instantaneously you're brought right back. That same subconscious mind can also bring back feelings of trauma. Not trauma that you forgot, but trauma that you may not have even realized that you had. I've made videos about this in the past. Besides my own experiences as a police officer, I grew up in a police family. And I remember driving through the city and driving through Scarborough with my dad and some of his friends. And basically every intersection, somebody made a comment, every intersection they pass, they have a story about something that happened. The feeling is brought back that they experience at that time. And I actually understand that completely now, because when I'm driving through Scarborough, when I'm driving through Toronto, when I drive through certain intersections or gas stations, or I see certain buildings, it's not that I necessarily remember the call, the traumatic call, but I remember the feeling at that call. And if it's not bad for me, sometimes you're experiencing the trauma of that person. And I won't get into details because, of course, it could be very morbid, but family members who've lost lost other family members, you're remembering their trauma while you're in that situation. And it comes back just out of nowhere. You don't think about it. It's something that I may not have thought about for 15 years. But as soon as I'm there in front of that house, in front of that building, in that lobby, that's what comes back. And it's the feeling. It's incredible how the mind works. I mentioned in the past also that when I was a teenager, I was robbed at knifepoint at the Skytrain station in BC, in New Westminster, BC. And it wasn't until I never thought about that incident for many, many years. When I was in New Westminster a few years ago, when I was at Columbia Station, that's where it happened, by the way, Columbia Station, I just got close to the station and that same feeling was brought back to me. I never thought about it. I had no recollection of looking at the subway station, the Skytrain station at all. But that same feeling of panic came over me. And I was with a girl at the time. There was multiple suspects, but that same feeling just kind of came over me. And I know, sure, it's PTSD and everything else, but it's not something you realize you're even experiencing until, maybe it's too late or you're in that moment. But I wanted to share something else with you. And this, to me, is kind of crazy. A few years back, I was living in the country at the time. I was dating a girl. She was at the very front of the house by the fence. I think she was looking at flowers or God knows what. But there was a truck truck that drove by, and it stopped rather quickly, and there was two gentlemen in the truck that were saying something to her, and I could tell by her body language, of course, that it was not good. And she looked at me, and she almost kind of had that same panic in her eyes. So me being me, what did I do? I hopped in my truck because this is obviously not acceptable, and I had to figure out what's going on. I hopped in my truck, and I'm not going to get into it, but they had no choice. They had to stop. And I did confront them. The driver of the vehicle, the owner of the truck, he lived not too far from me, kind of, a couple streets down. It's the country, okay? So your next door neighbor lives a kilometer away. Anyways, lived kind of far away. But every time this person drove by my house, which was probably 2-3 times a day, I knew it. And I didn't even necessarily have to see his truck. I just had to hear it. So let's say there's 50 vehicles that go across my house a day, 50, 100 vehicles. I don't think about it. I barely look at them. I don't even notice them, the sounds. But this vehicle, I didn't have to see this truck. I just had to, before I saw the truck, I heard it, and something kind of, you hear the term, your hair on the back of your neck went up. Something came over me, and I would look, and it was this truck. Hundreds of vehicles could drive by. It didn't matter, but I knew when this person's truck got close. I didn't have to see it. I just had to hear it. And then now we're talking about, going back to my subconscious mind. My subconscious mind knew, because of the experience, because of what took place, that this person Again, whether they were dangerous or not, this is where my mind went. And I just associated this truck to that situation, and it didn't matter. Again, I could be out there working. I wouldn't even look at the vehicles, not even paying attention. But as soon as this truck got close, I knew before I even looked at it. Listen to your instincts. It's very, very important. That's the only reason why I wanted to make this video here. I thought it was kind of cool. Now, I haven't had that feeling for a few years now, but I also realized, and I found out later, that this person sold that truck, so they don't even drive that truck anymore. So I don't have that association. Anyways, your mind, if it's sending you a warning, it's for a reason. Learn to be in tune with that. Learn to listen. Have a good day, folks. Be safe out there. Look after one another, and perhaps we will see you again.